Hey guys, I'm Sarah.
And I'm Alex.
Welcome to the Dead Lounge podcast.
And today we are talking about retail because we both have had...
The most fun of all fun subjects is retail.
Uh,
We both work retail. We both have only really worked retail customer service jobs.
yeah.
And
I've had a
boy,
bit
do
of a week.
you get some stories from working those jobs.
Yeah. It's been a bit of a week for me working.
Well, tell us about it.
Well, I think it just might be the area that I'm working at, but I feel like a lot of old people have been hitting on me recently.
Well, because you work in because I think it's a similar thing that I am realizing. I've talked about, I worked before in a place closer to me that it's a more poor area, I guess. And I currently work in a rich people area. And you also work in a rich people area. And no offense if you are a rich people.
If you are a rich people.
But rich people are fucking weird. And it only gets worse when they're old.
Yeah.
I had weird customers where I worked before, but it is nothing compared to this area.
Well, that's the funny thing. When I worked in, I used to work at a health food store, same franchise as you, different store, but the location was a poor area. The old people there, worst I got from them was a lecture on Viagra. That was probably the worst that I've ever gotten working at that health food store from an old person. Because aside from that, it was just friendly conversation, or them telling me about, them going on vacation, or how they have a grandson, daughter, relative, whoever, who has the same name as me.
Mm-hmm.
I used to get those kind of stories. Now, on a fairly regular basis, I get just... And it's always the old women, and it's part of what makes me, a little bit uncomfortable. Them, it's the way that they ask me for things. Mm-hmm. Or, recently, I had an old lady, invite me to her basement.
So, you don't, just pro tip, when you go to the store, don't invite the employees to your basement. They don't want to go.
She just walks up to me. She just walks up to me and is like, "You should come see my basement." And it's alright, friendly old lady, whatever, just kind of, maybe her basement's recently decorated or something like that. But no,
maybe she's senile.
I don't know. She was super adamant and, kept bringing it up, kept, she was talking to my coworker who was checking her in. I work at a thrift store right now, and we buy stuff from customers. She was getting checked in, and immediately averted all attention away from this guy, in the middle of this whole transaction, and she just turns to me and is like, "You should see my basement." Then later, she came in there with her husband. Later, the husband, calls me over as I'm doing something and starts talking to me about, "Oh, you must see a lot of weird stuff working at a thrift store, blah, blah, blah." And then she comes back and is super insistent that I come with them to see their basement. And even asked the husband, wouldn't he really like it in our basement? I feel like he'd like our basement. And the husband got super uncomfortable and just grabbed her by the arm and said, "We're going," and walked to the register.
That almost does kind of sound though like she has some kind of mental problem, or
He didn't speak for me for the rest of that transaction, but after they had been checked out, we gave them their money. He's like, "Alright, you all have a nice day," and he left the store, and she stood there for another 10 minutes trying to convince me to go with her to see her basement.
Don't do that, folks. Yeah, I don't get people like outwardly like doing things like that. I do get like the weird old men who like linger too long or like I go to hand them their change and they very purposefully reach up to like touch my hand when they like you can tell it's on purpose. It's not the normal just reaching out to take your change gesture.
Right.
It's
It's like, let me feel your skin.
like I feel like old men are quietly creepy, while old women tend to be a little more forward about their creepy advances towards younger guys. It's no less creepy, just so you know. But
I had, like, 2 weeks ago, I had an old lady come up to me, and I forget why she wanted to talk to a manager, but she asked me, you know, hey, can you do this for me? And it's like, no, I can't, only a manager can. And she said, oh, well, I thought you were the manager. And it's like, no, I've only been here for, like, a couple of months, so, yeah, not a manager yet. And she asked, like, my coworker, like, you know, man, sorry, I thought he was the manager. And she's just like, yeah, no, he's not, he's new. And she's like, but he looks like he has a lot of power. It's like, what? And she just, like, stared at me. Like, she's now talking to the assistant manager, staring at me.
that's great.
No, it is not.
It's gotta be something like, I don't know, maybe the way you carry yourself tells older women that you are, like, the man to talk to and, like...
Listen, I try to carry myself in a way that draws no attention. And that failed me.
I don't know, at my store, there's not a whole lot of just, like, random people who come in. It's like, we have a lot of regulars, people who are in all the time. And, like, one of the guys in particular, is an older guy, he always comes in for erectile dysfunction drugs. And he's so weird about it that, like he always, like, he'll talk to a male employee, but he's never happy about it. And, like, if you're, like, a female employee, he gets just a little too close and, like, and so stuff. And it's gotten to a point, we all know him, where, like, he's walked in and, like, one of my managers, like, a female manager, will see him come in and, like, I'm walking out of the back room and she just, like, rushes back and grabs my arm and pulls me back into the back room. Like, you don't want to be on the floor right now.
He's back.
I wonder if people like that realize that, like...
They're making people uncomfortable.
That they're making people so uncomfortable that all of the female employees are actively avoiding you. Or avoiding even being on the floor when you are in the store. Like...
I don't know. There's one old guy that comes into our store that, like, I feel so bad for any women that are in the store when he shows up. Because the guy's a nice guy. Like, comes in there, always making jokes. Usually super polite about everything.
Usually.
There was one day where he kind of snapped off on one of the employees. That was a weird day. But he always comes in, and every single time he's in, he's been showing up for like a few months now. Every single time he shows up to the store, he's always looking for some sort of decoration for his basement because he's, you know, oh, I'm redoing my basement right now and I want it to look really nice. I want it to look really nice. I want you to be able to walk into my basement and for you to go like, wow. So he's constantly calling us and showing up at the store, and every single time we answer the phone or we see him walk in the door, he goes, do you have anything, did you get anything in recently that would make you go, wow? And then he'll go through the store, start picking up a bunch of stuff, walk up to the register, ask our opinion. But if it's only us guys in the store, you know, whatever we say, he'll, like, spend maybe an hour mulling it over. Just kind of sitting there at the register, thinking about it. if there's a woman at the store, he then lectures us about how, guys, we don't really have a nice eye for fashion or decorations or anything like that. We need to get a female's opinion on this, and we'll find every single woman in the store to ask them their opinion on everything he brought up to the register.
And he's not even correct in his stereotypes. Like, I know plenty of women, myself included, don't know anything about fashion, decorating. Like, I literally had the idea earlier to put a mannequin hand on the wall and use it as a coat hook. Like, that's my idea of some good decorating.
And it's not a bad idea. It's a fun idea.
I feel like that tells me that he just, like, he wants to decorate his basement and use it to, like, seduce the ladies. So he needs to make sure that, like, that the ladies like it.
He has a wife.
Maybe they have an open relationship. You don't know.
Well, see, here's the thing. One day he came into the store and got some stuff. He was just trying to decide whether or not to buy it. And he forgot his phone. And so he had one of us take pictures of it to then send it to his wife to see what her opinions were.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently she's had enough of his crap because he's just buying stuff with no place to put it. Because he stopped bringing her in because anytime he brought her into the store with him, she would always, like, say the same thing. Where are you going to put it? We have no room for any of this stuff. And so he just stopped bringing her.
It's one way to... It's one solution to that problem. Wife doesn't like you buying so much. Just leave your wife at home. So she can yell at you when you get home and have already bought it.
It's like, well, can't return it now. Yeah, he's a nice guy. Just kind of
kooky.
Yeah.
We have people, we have, like, a couple little, like, systems at our store. We have a rewards card, and then we have a bag reward thing. So, like, if you come in and you bring your own bag, or you decide that you just want to carry your stuff, you don't want a bag, you get 7 cents off. People get really intense about their 7 cents off. Like, if you forget to give them their bag discount, they get so mad. Or, like, there's certain things. There was a woman that I had to deal with recently. She got a case of water. We don't give bag discounts for a case of water because who puts their case of water in a bag? Nobody. It doesn't happen. But, like, she got her case of water and she's like, oh, and I don't need a bag. I'm like, okay. So I ring her out and she's like, why didn't I get a bag discount? Like, because
there was no bag.
We don't even have bags for cases of water. Like, your big box of, like, 4 gallons of water would break any bag we have. We don't have bags for your case of water. So we don't give discounts when you say you don't want one. We wouldn't have given you one anyway. But, like, she was so upset that I didn't give her her bag discount. There is now a rule, because she contacted corporate over it and, like, made a fuss to corporate. And they, like, sent out an email that's basically said, guys, if somebody wants a bag discount for their case of water, just give it to them. Like,
she must have really talked their ears off.
She must have.
No, speaking of bags, I've been getting lectured by so many people recently about the bags at our store. Not, like, normally the usual complaint is that, oh, these plastic bags are too flimsy and you can't put very much stuff in them or it'll break and so on and so forth. This week, every single day this week, multiple people, when it's like, alright, do you want a bag for that? And they'll just look at me like I've just offended them and are like, of course I don't need a bag for this. haven't you seen recently what plastic bags are doing to the fish? And I've been getting such like
Maybe
emotional lectures.
Maybe there was something on the local news lately.
I don't know. They've just been yelling at me as if like I'm forcing them to take a bag.
See, I get the opposite. I get people who get really irritated with me because of course I need a bag. Why wouldn't I need a bag? Gonna stop me when I try to leave the store and accuse me of stealing if I don't have a bag. Like, no, actually, I will not. I just sold this to you. I know you bought it. Door's right there.
It's like, yeah, it really convincing to steal something. Like, you show up, you hand them the money, and then you take the items with the receipt.
Yeah, that's the other thing. You have a receipt. If you don't want a bag and someone tries to accuse you of stealing, which they won't do,
just show them the receipt.
And that would be such a weird, like, scam on our part if we were trying to get people to go without bags just to accuse them of stealing as they were leaving the store.
Oh my god, speaking of stealing, I had the worst manager when I worked at 7-Eleven. It was insane. This guy, like, first off, he was lazy. He was, like, probably the laziest manager that I've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
But he would always accuse me of stealing. Because, like, normally what we do, we would, we hand a lottery at 7-Eleven, so we would give the lottery tickets, and once they pay for it, a little receipt prints out. We would put the receipt in a little container on the other end of the register or whatever. Every single time that I would work, he would, like, walk out and pick up the bag, and then go to count the tickets to make sure all of the tickets that were printed out were paid for, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime there was one missing, he would walk up to me and would just go, so the numbers are wrong and some lottery tickets were printed and I don't see any receipts for them. I'm not saying that you took them, but if I don't find it, me and you are going to have a talk. And then he would go back in his little office and I guess recount them or something. Then he would come back out and start, like, yelling at me again for, I'm not seeing these receipts and I'm gonna have you empty your pocket soon if these receipts don't pop up and blah blah blah. And then he would look back where the counter or where the little container was, and he would see some receipts that just fell out of the container when he picked it up. And he would just, every single time he would do this, he would just grab them, slowly walk into his office, walk back out, and then ask me, "Do you want a pizza?" Every single time. Every time he accused me of...
Sorry, I just accused you of stealing lottery tickets. Have a pizza. That'll make up for it.
Every single time.
Shitty 7-Eleven pizza.
Every single time. No, here's the thing. He would go out and buy Aurelio's. Except...
So he felt real bad.
Except he would only get his favorite pizza.
That's hilarious.
Like, every single time. There's been multiple times. I mean, free pizza is free pizza. But the dude always accused me of stealing. Like, anytime there was one thing missing, it was my fault.
There's a thing with, like food places, I've noticed. Like, places that sell, like, cooked food and stuff, because I worked at, like, I don't work there anymore, whatever, Little Caesars. And... like, just rules that I don't really understand. You could get fired at the end of the day if there was, like, a pizza in the hot box that didn't sell and you took it home. You could get fired for that. Like, you're just gonna throw it out anyway. Why is there, like, there's just things like that I don't understand. Like, the place that I work at now, if something, expires and we have to pull it off the shelf and it's gonna get thrown away anyway... the employees are allowed to take it home with them if they want. And I've never understood why, like, other places don't do the same thing. Like, it's an expired product. You can't sell it. Why not just let your employees take it?
I mean, that was the weird thing. Like, it blew my mind when I first, like, the first 7-Eleven that I worked at. Like, normally when you think of, like, a convenience store like that, it's like, oh, this roller food, it's probably been up there for all day. It's probably gross and hard and just, you know, it'll make you sick to eat them. But there's, like, rules and regulations, and if they're doing their job right, which a lot of places don't, but if they're doing their job right, chances are by the time you see it, it's probably only been there fully cooked for, like, maybe an hour at most. Because, like, after it hits a certain amount of time, you're supposed to take it off and put fresh ones up.
Mm-hmm.
And you're supposed to, like...
Yeah, I know at Little Caesars it was, like, 30 minutes. It couldn't be out for longer than, like, 30 minutes.
I think at 7-Eleven it was, like, an hour or two after it's, like, done cooking. Because the rollers cook so slowly.
Right.
So by the time, like, you know, a couple hours have passed, it's probably not gonna sell. So just put some fresh ones up and then take the old ones off. But we were just gonna throw the old ones away. So the first 7-Eleven that I worked at would, like, let us keep that. Like, we could just take that home. Like, the donuts and stuff we could take at the end of the day because it's 10 o'clock. Who's gonna buy a donut at 10 o'clock when they can just come back in, like, a few hours when the fresh ones get there? You know, no one's gonna buy roller food, so take all the roller food and, you know, if you want it, you can take it home.
Does anyone actually buy that stuff? Like,
yeah.
Because I've never seen it. I've never bought any of it. I've never seen anyone buy any of it. But, like, there's always just stuff like, it must sell because they keep, like, trying to sell it. Like,
the things that
they haven't pulled it off the shelf yet. Like,
no, those sell a lot depending on what's going on in the area. Like, the most roller food we've ever sold was, like, during... There was construction happening, like, right down the street from one of the ones that I worked at. And construction workers would just come in all the time, and they would, you know, get the big gulps, get their hot dogs, get their taquitos, and get their case of beer. Always happened.
Which really seems like a work hazard for, like...
You don't know how many construction workers start their day off, like, 6 a.m., walk into a 7-Eleven, get themselves a soda, some chips, maybe a breakfast sandwich or something, and a case of beer. Like, it's wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was weird because, you know, it's been sitting there. You're not gonna sell this stuff. No one's gonna buy it. So the employees would take it home.
Yeah, like, it's just weird that, like, and it's mostly big companies, like, Little Caesars and 7-Eleven are not alone in this, like...
No.
It's pretty much any big company, or even a lot of, like, smaller companies. Like, the companies consider it theft. Even though they weren't going to sell it anyway. It's considered theft. And, like... I don't know, it just makes no sense to me.
I've had food docked for my pay before. Not at a 7-Eleven. I used to work at a little small burger joint. It's like a Midwestern chain. But I hated that store. It was a great job until it wasn't. This guy, like, the manager that used to be there, nice dude, super friendly, would always let the employees at the very end of the day, there's nobody left, we're cleaning up. If anybody wants some, like, food for dinner or something like that, make yourself some food fresh, and you can take it home. Because you've been working here for, like, 6-8 hours.
Right.
So, super chill. Then one day, the owner of the franchise decided his son really needs a job. So I'm just gonna make him manager. Never worked a day in his life. Suddenly the manager of this store. And he was a nightmare. An utter fucking nightmare. And then he saw us, like, making food for ourselves at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was, like, putting their food in their bag. And he's just like, you guys can't do that. You guys are stealing from the store. That's theft. You know, and he's like, well, I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not gonna, like, fire you all for stealing. But I am gonna dock all that food that you just made from your pay. So yeah, I got food docked from my pay before.
See, that's never happened. I know at, like, Little Caesars, they did, our supervisor let us, like if there was a lull in business, they would let us, like, make a crew pizza, which couldn't be any, like, special thing, just, like, a pepperoni pizza.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, you could have the pizza. But you had to get approval from him first to make a crew pizza. But, like, I mean, even that's probably better than, like... I didn't have a great experience working there, but I don't actually blame the company for that. I blame that specific store. I don't blame the company. Like, I don't actually have any problems with Little Caesars. But, like, I feel like that's probably more than a lot of big chains will do.
Yeah. No, I blame that guy for that store. The guy yelled at me for showing up to work on time once.
For showing up to work on time?
For showing up to work on time. Like, normally... So I found out most jobs don't like it when you do this. But what I used to do was I used to show up to work, like, 15 to 30 minutes early and clock in.
Yeah, most jobs don't like it when you do that.
No, they don't. And everybody knew I would do this, and no one stopped me from doing it. And one day, I decided, you know what? I'm feeling lazy. I don't want to go to work right now. So I'll show up to work, like, at 3 on the dot to start my shift. I got there, I clocked in, I went to the back to start washing dishes, and he was back there waiting for me and just, like, started yelling at me about, where were you? You're late, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, my shift just starts at 3. It's 3 now. I just punched in. He's like, yeah, but you're normally here early, so where were you? Like, what the shit? I was at home? I hated that guy.
Like, that's one of those... for most companies, like, they don't want you to be working more than you're scheduled.
Right.
Like, they schedule you a specific amount of hours on purpose. like, and if you work more than that, like, that's just more money they have to give you, and they don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm gonna have to, whatever my next job ends up being, I'm gonna have to get used to not showing up early. Because, like, this job that I work at now, I'm a cashier, and they like the cashiers to show up 10 minutes before their actual shift starts to, like, count our drawers. And so now I'm, like, so used to, like, oh, I'm scheduled at 2, that means I have to be there at 1:50. Like, that's gonna be really hard to unlearn, because I've been at this place for over a year now. Like,
yeah, that's the weird thing about working at this thrift store. They schedule you, like, an hour before the store opens to show up. Like, if you're opening the store, they schedule words I can talk. They schedule you to be there an hour before the store starts. Mm-hmm. And it's so you can, like, you know, clean up and count the register and do all that stuff. But the night crew cleans up, and the registers are usually counted the night before, and it only takes, like, 5 minutes to count them when you show up there. So then it's just you and this other person just there for, like, 50 minutes in an empty store before it even opens.
See, at least my store, we also are scheduled to be there. Like, I often am scheduled to be there at 8. We open at 9. And I'm just the opening grocery person. So at least, like, my store is a grocery store. I do have things to do for that hour before we open.
Yeah.
It's like the closing crew still does, like, cleaning everything, so everything's clean by the time I got there, and I can just get to work on grocery stuff. But, like a thrift store, what is there really to do?
Nothing.
When there's no customers.
There is nothing to do. There's absolutely nothing to do. But here's the thing. A lot of my coworkers kind of complain when there's nothing to do. I kind of prefer that, because I've seen that place when it gets busy. I don't like it.
I like it when things are busy. Like, so much better. Like, I love when, like, shit really picks up. And then, like, you look at the clock and it's, like, 4 hours have passed. Like, that's my favorite feeling in the world.
I don't mind that. I don't mind when it's busy. I don't mind when it's, like, so busy that things fly by. I just hate when it's, like, super busy and I have, like, too much to do.
Yeah.
Because that's when things get a
That's
little bit
order
overwhelming.
days. I hate when it gets really busy on order days.
Oh my god, I loved order days.
I like order days. I just hate when, like, there's a million customers in the store and I'm trying to put up the order.
See, the days that I hated were the days in between order days. Because I had nothing to do. Because, like, for those of you who don't know, and I think I mentioned it at the beginning of the podcast this time, I used to work at the
the same, like,
franchise,
but a different store.
Yeah. Yeah, order days were great because that's what took up most of my time, was, like, walking around the store. The person that was supposed to do the orders, like, was the jack of all trades of the store, so she would just walk around helping every single department.
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, like, she's just so busy that she can't write the produce order. So I would just get a piece of paper and write down everything that we would need to order and how much of it, and, like, at the end of my shift, I would just hand it to her, and she would just place the order and go on about her day. It would take her, like, 5 minutes to do. Like, I loved that, because those were also the same days that the shipment got there. And I would just talk with the shipment guys, and oh, they were so nice. I miss those guys. I should go visit them.
See, the only reason I hate when it gets busy when I'm on order days is because, like, I am kind of the main grocery person right now. So, like, when the order comes in, I'm the person checking it in, and I'm the person who's mostly putting it up. Like, I have a couple other people helping me, but I'm the main person checking it in and putting it up. And that's a hefty job. Like, that is a job that takes, like, pretty much my entire shift.
I know, and it was the same thing when I worked there, and I loved it, because that would be my entire shift.
And it's my entire shift when customers aren't bugging me every 10 seconds. So, like, when customers are bugging me every 10 seconds, like, I try not to get too irritated about it because that is my job. Like, I am there for the customers, but, like, also, this is not done. I have to go. Like,
See, we had a way of getting around that, and it was, like, super sneaky. Like, if a customer got a little bit too talkative,
mm-hmm.
we would just, like, look for another employee and just kind of, like, make eye contact and just, like, hold up little four fingers, maybe tap your shoulder, and that would tell them to, like, go to the phone and page your name to pick up line 4. There was no line 4, so they'd hear you over the intercom, like, you know, Sarah, go pick up line 4, and you would be like, oh, I gotta be right back, there's a phone call, they just paged me, and you would just leave.
We've done that, like, stuff like that before. There was, like, one time in particular that I remember of, like, one of the other cashiers had gotten caught, like, by this old man who was just doing that old man thing where he just is telling story after story after story, which is fine. He was a very nice old man, but this other cashier had a job to do and couldn't just be, like, standing there in the produce section listening to your stories. Like, unfortunately, if I could just stand there and listen to old people tell stories all day, like, that'd be great. I love old people's stories. But, like...
They can be fun.
It had gotten to a point, he was standing there for, like, a half hour. And, like, he wasn't getting any work done because he was kind of just trapped by this guy. And, you know, our manager saw that and just kind of went into the back room and, like, paged, like, his name to the back office, please? This is the back office. And, like...
That's the best.
So he could be like, oh, sorry, that's me, I gotta...
Yeah, that's the best when your coworkers can, like, bail you out.
Unfortunately, like, a lot of customers, there's a lot of, like, nightmare stories about customers that people tell, but, like, honestly, 9 times out of 10, the customer's fine. Like, it's that, like, 1 out of 10 customers that just ruin your day.
Yeah. I know, I had a customer come in the other day, and she, like, lost it at my coworker. Like, she called him a dick and told him to calm down. It was like so bizarre, cause like I'm behind him, like putting some stuff away, and all of a sudden I hear her, like, she's talking. She was, you know, being super friendly and just like, oh, so happy to get her money for the items that she just brought in. And the way that we work at our store is, like, we look at your items, we kind of, like, try to find out how much it's selling for, and we'll mark it down, you know, by 50 or 70% because we're a thrift store. Mm-hmm. You're not going to pay, like, full retail prices for an item at a thrift store.
Right.
So we'll mark it down, and whatever we price it at, you get about 1/3 of that price. So, go figure, 1/3 of 70% is not that much. So for all of her items, she was getting, like, something stupid low, like $20 or $30 or something like that, and got super pissed off at us for not, like, giving her more money, and took it out on him because he was the one who told her how much money she was getting.
Yeah, they do that.
And just lost
like,
it.
the people who get mad at, like, the cashier for company policy are the worst.
Yeah.
Like, I literally cannot do anything about this problem you are having. Like, I can't. There's nothing I can do. I will get in trouble. If you want me to break the rules for you, like, honestly, I wish I could. It would get you out of here faster. But, like, I could get fired.
It's like, I just hear her, like, start, like, talking super fast, and then suddenly my coworker just starts going, whoa, 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 and I turn around, and she just starts cursing him out, calling him a dick, saying, like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? Why are you offering, like, that little amount? People are bringing their stuff here. Do you know how much people paid for these things? And it's just like,
well, they're not new anymore. They're just...
And then,
a lot of these things, I've been to your store, a lot of these things are very used.
Yeah. Then, like, my coworker's, like, talking to her, super calm, just like, oh, you know, I'm sorry to hear that you're disagreeing with the offer. You know, you're able to take your items back. You know, we'll just nullify the whole thing. You can take all your items back. It's fine. You don't have to sell them to us. And she just, like, what was with your attitude? Can you say that again without being a jerk? And just, like, grabbed her stuff and left. And then one of the customers, like, walked up to the register and was just like, she was a bitch.
Like, I love when other customers do that, because I can't. Like, I can't do that, so I love when other customers do that.
Like, that lady ruined his day. That's, like, all he would talk about for the rest of that shift.
Yeah, because that's the problem with, like, asshole customers. It doesn't matter if everybody else for the rest of the day is lovely. Like, that one person can ruin your whole shift. Like, I remember when I was at Little Caesars, there was a woman who, she wanted a cheese pizza. And she was, like, she had an attitude, like, from the start. And she was asking, do you have a cheese pizza that's not burnt? Like, yes, we have 3 cheese pizzas in the hot box, none of which are burnt. But I didn't say it like that, by the way. I'm very good at dealing with customers.
Just internally.
I have a very happy disposition when dealing with customers. But, like... well, like, you know, yes, we have cheese pizzas. None of them are burnt. Like, it's all good. And she's like, okay, I'll get a cheese pizza then. And, like, got her a cheese pizza, handed her one out of the box, and she, like, opened it up to look at it, and she's like, you told me this wasn't burnt. And, like, and I was like, I was pretty sure they weren't burnt. And she, like, turned it around to me and was like, this is burnt. And what she was talking about with, like, being burnt is the golden brown spots on the cheese that just happens when you cook cheese. And, like, the manager got involved. She was, like, just throwing such a fit over this pizza. And, like, the manager got involved and she's like, okay, I'll make you a new cheese pizza. And she's like, good, make sure this one isn't burnt. And so, like, there was one that came, like, fresh out of the oven, and the manager, like, pulled it out and showed it to her. It was like, does this one look better? And, like, she was like, no, that one's still burnt. And she, and at this point, my manager, like, realized what was happening and was just like, ma'am, this is just what our cheese pizzas look like. And she's like, no, it's not. And, like, pointed up at the, like, menu board.
Oh my god, that is the worst.
Was like, your pizzas have to look like that. And she's like, ma'am, I'm sorry. This is just what our cheese pizzas come out of the oven looking like, unless you want it undercooked, which we can't sell you an undercooked pizza. And she was so mad about it. And literally, she was still there. She was still complaining. And the guy who was, like, next in line was just like, dude, chill. It's $5.
Yeah, I mean, you're at a Little Caesars.
Which was just my favorite thing, because I wish I could have said that. Chill, it's $5. Like, you are getting a 14-inch pizza for $5.
Dude, there was one customer, I hated his guts when I worked at that fast food place. He would always come in, and, you know, you can special order your fries or whatever. Mm-hmm. You know, get whatever toppings you want, or...
Yeah, special order whatever you want. Honestly, that's a thing that I know people get anxious about, but I want to just say, special order whatever you want.
Yeah, it's fine.
Nobody cares unless you're, like, insane.
And this guy was insane. And the most insane part about it was that they would let him be insane. So, he would always come up to the register, super nice, super chill, ask for, you know, a order of fries, and his special order every single time was make them perfect.
Make them perfect.
Make them perfect. And it's like, does that mean salt? No salt? Undercooked? Like, you want them soggy? Because some people like their fries noodly or whatever. What does that mean, perfect? And he would just keep repeating himself. Make them perfect. And they would put up the little, like, tag, like, alright, fries, make them perfect. And every single time he showed up, they would make me make his fries. And I would put them in, like, I would make him his, whenever someone special orders fries, we make them their own batch.
Mm-hmm.
So, we made this completely separate batch of fries, put it in the fucking thing, salt them on their own, put them in the bag, and we would hand it to him, and he would take one out, try it, and if it wasn't perfect, he would give it back, and we'd have to make him a brand new order of fries. Until they came out perfect.
Just whatever perfect was to him.
Yeah. We would literally have to, like, keep giving him bags of fries until he, like, ate one and was like, alright, perfect. Thanks, guys. And he would just leave with his fucking bag of fries. And then we would just be left with however many fries it took to make them perfect.
Yeah, that's
Fucking hated that guy.
Unless you're like that. Like, if an employee, like, I see people complain about things all the time on, like, social media. A lot of people who work in, like, fast food or retail or whatever, complaining about things that, like, that's literally your job. Like, that's what you're there to do. Special orders is part of that. That's literally their job, to make your food the way that you want it made.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, just don't be an asshole about it.
I mean, that's really like the moral of every job where you're working with customers. Is like just don't be an asshole about it.
Yeah. There's the other thing with, like, retail in particular. Well, retail and food service still. But, like, I never closed when I worked fast food. I've never closed at a fast food job before, and, like, that was just because of my circumstances at the time. But the thing of just why customer service employees do not like it when you are in the store past close, because I feel like that's something that people who have never worked retail or fast food genuinely don't understand. And because I see a lot of, like, well, you're getting extra money from me being there longer. Why do you care? And I'll get other, like, customers who, when they're in my store past close, they're like, when they're leaving, they'll make a little joke of, like, all right, bye, now you get to go home. And it's just like, I don't get to go home because you're gone. Like, when the last customer leaves, that's when we finally get to start, like,
Closing.
all of the closing duties that need to get done, like cleaning the whole store, facing everything, doing any, like, little stuff that needs to get done, putting away the produce, cleaning up the juice bar, like, all of that gets, like, counting down the drawers and, like, for the registers and doing all that paperwork, like, that all gets done after the customers leave. So, like, when a customer is in the store past close, like, I don't care that I'm getting more money from that. Like, the $6 extra that I'm making from you being in the store late does not feel worth it.
No.
And I feel like people just genuinely don't understand that.
No, see, at my store, we're not even allowed to, like, if it's closed, we just have to, like, let the customers keep wandering the store.
Yeah,
until they leave.
It's the same. Once they're in the store, if they make it in the store before we close, we're not allowed to kick them out.
We can, like, we can't, like, kick them out, but we can tell them that, hey, we've closed 30 minutes after we've closed. Like, we have to lock the door and everything, but we can't, like...
Yeah, we have to lock the door. And I love when customers get all confused when they try to leave, when they've hung around for, like, 20 minutes past close. And the door's locked, and they're like, well, why is the door locked? There's still people in there. Like, we don't want anyone, like, coming in
after it's closed. I've watched so many people just walk into that door.
Yeah.
Leaving the store.
It's hilarious when it happens.
It's because we have like a little push button that when the door is locked, the only way to open it from the inside is to push the push lever. Normally, you can just push on the door, and most people just, like, walk out, and their arm just kind of glances against the door, and it goes. So watching them just, like, all right, you know, thanks, bye, have a nice night, wham. And it's like, oh yeah, push the little push button.
See, we have sliding doors, so, like, we have to turn them off and then we lock them. We didn't used to have to lock them, but there have been too many people, like, recently who walk up, and when the doors do not open for them, they pry the doors open and walk in. Like, are you closed? Like, yes! That's why the doors did not open for you.
No, see, the thing that we get is, like
that's a big thing. Just really, like, if whatever, they're past close, honestly, it's nobody likes it, but we'll deal. But, like, please, if we're not open and the doors don't open for you, do not force them open and come in anyway.
No, that's like, that's the weirdest thing when, alright, it's closed, we've locked the doors, we've turned off the light, and then a car pulls up, and they see that we're closed, but they pull up, get out of their car, and start yanking on the doors, and then ask if we're closed.
It's just doors are locked, lights are off. Yeah, they might be open. Maybe there's a power outage and they're just
me and my coworker like a couple nights ago had a stare down with some customers one day, because they we've literally closed everything. All of the lights are off, everything's locked, carts are inside. It's like 8:30. We close at 8, and this car pulls up, and they just kind of stand there, and I can see them like peering inside to try and like see if anyone's in there. And I'm just waiting on my coworker, since he's like the closing manager. I'm just waiting on him to finish, emailing whatever he has to email the corporate at the end of every shift. And so I'm sitting by the door in front of this huge open glass door where you can clearly see inside from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just sitting on one of the couches that's for sale. And these people just roll up and just kind of stare at me.
It's like they think if you see them, you have to let them in. Like...
And then it's like... Then I see another car pull up, and they, like, see the other car there. And so they, like, turn and park in the parking lot. And then the other car, like, parks alongside them, and I see the two windows roll down, and the two of them are, like, talking and pointing inside. And it's like, what are you colluding to do? Like, are you debating whether or not we're closed?
I had one guy, he literally, like, scared the shit out of me. Because we were closed, and this was before we started locking the door at, like, closing time on the dot. And, like, we had closed. We had already had a rough closing, like, people hanging around for a long time, doing stuff that really makes closing take a long-ass time. And so it had already been a rough night. I had pulled my drawer at that point and, like, counted it down and done my paperwork, and I was helping pull produce. And... this guy, I was alone out there at the time. I was just pulling produce. I was the only person on the floor at the time. Everyone else was in the back. And this guy just, like, pries the doors open, walks in, and is like, "Are you open?" And I turn around and he just scared the crap out of me because I didn't even notice him come in. I was alone out there. We were closed. And I, like, jump and turn around and look at him. He's just like, "No, we're not open." And he's like, it's like, "Oh, well, I just need to get, like, one thing." And I was like, "We are closed. There's not even a drawer in the register. I literally, even if I was gonna let you get your one thing, I can't sell it to you. There is no drawer in the register." And also why you don't do that. I don't know why a person forces their way into a store after it's closed. Like, that's super, like...
That's shady.
Like, that immediately brings to mind, like, "Oh God, are we being robbed?" kind of thing.
Like, especially when you don't see them coming.
Yeah, when you don't see them coming, they had to have forced their way in because the doors are not open. Like, don't do that to people.
No, see, the worst
That's
that we get...
That's also grounds to call the police on you, by the way. You're trespassing after closing.
Yeah.
Like...
because you forced your way in.
Yeah.
If you were just on the outside knocking, it's like, yeah, no, we're closed, stay out there.
Yeah, but once you force your way in, you're trespassing, and the people at that store do have the right to call the cops on you if you don't leave.
You know, the worst that I've dealt with is just people lingering for, like, maybe 40 minutes after. Like, even once to the point where we can, like, properly tell them, "Hey, we've closed. Like, we closed 30 minutes ago. Please leave." And they're just like, "Oh, sorry, we didn't know," and blah, blah, blah. And they just kind of keep wandering.
Yeah. That literally last night, I didn't get out of the store until, like, almost an hour after we closed. And, like, on a good night when customers are gone, like, when we're closed and we're able to actually start closing at the right time, we're out, like, 15 minutes after closing. But, like, when that 15 minutes becomes an hour, like...
Yeah, this one lady, like, she was... I want to say she was rude. I want to say she thought we were being rude. But I don't really know who was in the wrong. I just know that I don't like her. Because she was there for, like, maybe 30 minutes after we closed. Finally, like, slowly walked up to the register. And, like, I started doing this thing of, once we close, I'll just start turning lights off. So even if there is still people inside the store, like, they'll see the lights turning off, and they'll just like, oh, you guys are closing. That's why these lights are turning off suddenly.
Yeah, we have our version of that. We can't turn any of the lights off, like, the main, like, lights on the ceiling, but we can turn the lights in, like, the freezers and the coolers off, and we can turn off the music. And, like, that's everyone's hint that, like, hey, we're closing.
Yeah, that's what I do. First thing I do, I turn the open sign off, turn off the music, and then I go to turn off the lights. And this lady, like, I would turn off the lights, and she would just move into the next aisle where there were still lights. And then I would turn off those lights, and she would just move to the next aisle where there were still lights. Then she made her way up to the register, finally started checking out her stuff, and she was just like, you know, it must be close to time for you guys to get out of here. It's like, yeah, store closed like 30 minutes ago. And she's like, oh, well, you know, how long would it have taken you to you know, do the whole closing thing if I weren't here? And then my coworker just goes like, we probably would have been done like 15 minutes ago. And then she just like snapped on him like he was being rude, and he's just like, well, you asked me a question, I gave you an answer. Yeah. It doesn't take that long to, like, we close at 8, it only takes like a few minutes to count down the registers and everything.
Yeah, it only takes a long time when, like, you know, when people
are still in the store. Like... And so she, like, had this attitude, grabbed her bags, started walking towards the door, reached to push the door open, and then turned and started, like, browsing through the aisles again. Like...
She definitely just did that to be petty.
I get that feeling. Oh my god, that was the worst. That was one of the few times that we left after 9 o'clock. It was a fucking nightmare.
I don't know. But still, like, most customers are fine. People are assholes in general. I like a lot of regular customers. Like, I like when people come in enough that you kind of have a relationship with them. Like, it's not really a friendship per se, but, like, they tell you about their lives sometimes, so you, like, know stuff about them, and you like...
Yeah. I definitely had more... I had more regulars that I talked to when I worked at the grocery store than anything.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, some old people can be pretty friendly when they're not hitting on you.
Or being really entitled. Old people are the most entitled customers. Just saying. They think, like, because they're old, that they should get whatever they want whenever they want it. But that's not how life works. I'm sorry.
Had an old lady, like, yell at us because we were selling, like, all 6 Star Wars movies as, like, a $15 collection. And she got upset with us because she only wanted the original 3.
Sorry.
And just fucking went off on us all. Because that's not real Star Wars.
Yes, it is. You just don't like it. I don't really like it that much either, but, like, it's Star Wars. And that's a thing we could talk about in a future podcast.
Star Wars?
Star Wars.
Yeah, because there's been Star Wars news recently.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think right here is a good place to end it.
I think so. Working in retail is interesting.
Yeah. There's definitely more stories that
Yeah, we're like an hour into this podcast, and like,
We've just kind of been rambling random stories.
yeah, and I'm sure both of us could like ramble for like another hour.
Yeah, but current locations and all, certain conversations have to
Yeah.
hold off for now.
Alright, that has been this podcast. Maybe we'll talk about Star Wars next time. Maybe not. We'll
Yeah.
see.
But if you have any interesting retail stories, post them in the comments wherever this is posted.
Yeah, everyone likes retail stories.
Yeah, I mean...
Except for when you're living them. I hope you have enjoyed. Hopefully we'll see you next time. Whatever format you're watching this on, if you can like, subscribe, or like follow or
all that stuff,
comment, whatever you can do, go ahead and do it.
Yeah, we'll figure out. We need to figure out like an intro and outro thing. That'll be eventually.
But for now, bye.